Yay! Welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I am your trippy, Trip C, psychedelic, psychopomp, Tahuti, Hermes, Trismegistus, and you are tapping into the root of the symmetry so you can tune in to the mind of Mercury as we tackle a big topic, huge topic, huge in my life. People who know me, this has personally impacted me in a lot of ways. Cults. Today's episode, we are talking about cults creating cultures. All right, so it's right there in the word. Culture is spelled out by cults. Each culture in existence is created by a cult. And now when we say a cult, literally that sounds like A-C-U-L-T, right? But that's really where we get the O-C-C-U-L-T version of a cult. So I've gotten a lot of questions. I'm just like squishing them all together because a bunch of people have been asking and I've been waiting, but since more stuff just keeps coming out, this is a question that has been coming in is the Illuminati real? And I've been waiting for the time to just talk about the Illuminati based on my audience. Me being 25, I'm surrounded by a bunch of adults who don't want to think that the government was created by people working together. You know, like that's my reality. I'm in a world where all these Christians and the Ews and the religious people around me of all colors, people don't want to think about the fact that Democrats and Republicans are both the same exact family of people working together. People want to act like these politicians are not all part of the same families. Yet when we scientifically, factually look at the presidents, we're going to see that all the presidents of the United States are bloodline related. Like literally, like these presidents are related, and then we have to take that to the celebrities. And overall, when we think about the creation of the Americas, it was what we call America today, right? The word America is backed by the energy of Europe wanting to steal everything that Quetzalcoatl set up here in what they call the New World, right? So obviously, if we call this the New World Order, right, we're exchanging money, so we're in the New World Order, then the Masons who made up the New World Order stole their idea of money from the Old World. So that's a cult. Like I'm just, like that's the cult. So when we know about Masonry, we can see that that's the cult that created our culture. So we celebrate every holiday, every single holiday, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Halloween, right? Those are like big main ones, right? Christmas, New Year's, Halloween, Thanksgiving, all Masonic, all created by men who came together figuring out how they could make money off of all the materials they stole from Metatron. So I've gotten this question a lot. Is the Illuminati real? And the short answer is they've been talking about themselves. Like, so isn't that what real is? You wouldn't even know about the Illuminati if it wasn't real. So even just the word Illuminati is backed by a lot of energy that makes that word relatable. Okay, so we had to think of it spiritually. That word Illuminati only physically matters to human consciousness because of all the baggage and the past history associated with the word. So when we say the word Illuminati, when we say any word, right? I can say the word matrix, Mason, Illuminati, Christianity, religion, bank, Jew, black, white. All these words hold weight. right? But everyone relates with these words differently. I just said a bunch of trigger words that might just get me taken down and cut out of Meta again. So these Masons stole everything from Metatron so that they can shut down actual Metatron. And that's why they call Facebook Metaverse. So they're weaponizing the truth to sell lies. And this is only possible because of the cult. So the fact that we're in a culture means that a cult created our culture. It means that Masons, came together with their idea of a new culture that they can create, which means they had to be a cult before they could create the culture. Okay, so this is why all civilizations, all cultures are created by cults. So I've dealt with a lot of weird, fucked up shit in my life of cults chasing me. I, as Chase, have dealt with cults chasing me for years because I started making costumes and expressing myself at conventions and overall being myself. So I learned early on I'm not in control of spirits outside of myself. I know for a fact that I'm not in control of spirits outside of myself. If I was in control of spirits outside of myself, I wouldn't be getting chased. Everyone would be happy alone. Well, I can see we're not in a universe where people are happy alone. The only reason cultures are created is because spirits don't want to be alone. Now, of course, Atlantean culture is created by spirits who are happy alone. Mercurian culture, right? So the old world, because there's two worlds. There's the new world and the old world. So it's quite obvious everything in the new world is stolen from the old world. That's why there was an old world before there's a new world, and the old world is all the ancient architecture that's been colonized. So the internet is stolen from Quetzalcoatl. That's colonized from the old world. All this technology that we have is colonized from the old world. And then this is where the Masons lie to us and they keep all the good technology for themselves, and then they give us garbage crap technology and say this is progress. And that's all colonialism. That's what we call whitewashing. And the only way that Masons could want to whitewash all of the cultures that they're colonizing is if they're not happy alone. Okay, so do understand that the root of white supremacy, it comes from spirits who are not happy alone. Once an individual is not happy alone, they will justify anything it takes to be with others. That's the Illuminati. And that's the cult overall. That's I live in LA. I've been living in LA for 2 years now. Wow. And cults are wild out here, obviously, right? Illuminati, Hollywood, there's so much crazy shit out here. And it's all about creating a mental atmosphere for a certain group of people that separates them from everyone else. It's really that simple. That's all any cult is. So any group of people can come together and create what other people would call a cult. And you don't think of it like a cult. So think about like if you got together with 5 of your friends and you all like video games, right? So you all start playing video games together. People outside of you, if they see that you come together every Saturday, right? You link your playing video games up with the astrology. You link your bodies up with the time of the star that you're able to use to track how everybody is connecting, right? So let's say you start using astrology to correlate, align your anatomy with the desires of your spirit. So now all of your spirits can start playing video games together. That itself, if other people are observing it, like let's say a Jew or a Christian or some religious person is seeing your friends come together, seeing you and your friends come together every week to play video games, they would call that a cult. Literally. They would say you coming together with other people to create your own ideas is a cult. Like this is basically how people describe cults. And this is yet again how every religion in existence has been created by people coming together, creating their own idea of God. Okay? So very important for you to know that your relationship with God is literally your infinitely individual relationship with yourself. And then this is where you can only see other gods. You can only see other people's idea of God based on how blinded you are by your own idea of God. So projection is perception. And this is literally the point of cults using their ability to create ideas to then manifest a culture. So the cults, the Masonic men who come together like, okay, we want to create a culture, that occultic practice is them making their idea of God real. So now they're going to use the logic, right? The law, language, Latin, and just all the L energy, but logic, law, and language. Because they love it. They love logic, law, and language. They're going to use all this L energy. So in Dissect the Dialect, in Dissect the Dialect, we know that L is 12. All right, so that represents how everyone spends time creating light. And that's what we use to communicate. So me right now, my mind is spending time creating light by combining 1 and 2. So 1 and 2 create the L that allow me to be seen as Iris cell, the eye of Ra in a cell. So Mercury is the cell that the eye of Ra is really in, and then that gets to come down into me as a messenger. Because if I was not using light to communicate what matters to my spirit, then I would not exist objectively. So this is the point of all of us as spirits, knowing that we are all using light to exist. This is why we did not always exist in this form, and we will not always exist in this form. That's how we know the past is real. Because I have many forms that I have been, and this is the newest form that I am building upon. So all the forms that I've taken in the past connects me to all the spirits who have also taken forms in the past. So this is the concept of the symmetry connecting all the families in Metatron's metaverse. So this is me as Spider-Man, symmetry as Spider-Man, supporting all these individuals who don't support me. I'm supporting all these spirits who don't give a fuck about supporting me because they all want to support themselves. So this is literally God's perspective. God supports all cults, but all these cults support themselves. Literally, so we can see God works through nature. Okay, so whatever your idea of God is, whatever your white supremacist idea of God is, it doesn't exist without nature. And the moment we can see that thousands of people can all have their own religions and their own ideas of God inside of one natural circumstance, this is the concept of Hermeticism. So this is literally why everyone, all these religions are making money off of Mercury, but I, the spirit that created Mercury, am poor because of it. I'm literally at the expense of myself, giving out wisdom that allows other people to make money, cutting me out of their consciousness. So that's literally why Masons worship Mercury, but I don't get any benefits from that shit in any way. Again, opposite. When you look at Marvel, again, like literally see how they treat Spider-Man in Marvel, and that's how they want to treat Mercury. So when you see that Spider-Man does all the work for the police, and then the police take credit for him, get paid for taking credit for the work he did, and still shoot at him because they still want to kill him, that's Europeans looking at Native Americans. So Spider-Man is stolen from the energy of Quetzalcoatl, so that the Masons who made Marvel can teach you to hold their matrix together. This is all occult practices that no one would be able to share with you except me, because I know who I am. And now I can see how everything in the world is connected to my spirit. It's kind of like, it's that simple. So this is where everyone has their own personal relationship with God, and all your past lives are connected by one space. So I've explicitly learned that no one here in this world can tell me about my past lives. I've been learning how all my past lives are connected from the spirits that are in the astral realm and are correlated with me in a metaphysical sense. So then when I come back here and I go on the internet and I'm able to make all the internet investigation connections, shit makes sense. It's like they tell me shit. I don't know if it's real or not, but then because my idea of what's real is trapped in this language, that's where I can hop on the internet and see that everything they just shared with me about reality is documented on the internet. It's just that one has to have the right words, the right information, and know what to look for. So this is the whole point of dissecting the truth, right? Because every cult creates their own truth. This is what we're talking about with cultures. This is why it's important to have empathy for every religion and to be able to understand why every religion can be connected by nature and how we all create nature before we get lost in anthropomorphizing our idea of God. Okay, so this is again why God supports every culture, because every cult is literally just spirits who are working together to make their idea of God real. So you can believe in any religion and feel like God supports you. And in your imagination, you're right. So that's a cult. Because once you feel like God supports you, if you can get 5 people around you and you all say, so God supports us? Oh, cool. Okay, so how does he support us? Boom, you start writing a Bible. You start writing your stories about how God supports you, what God does for you, how God is good. And now, once you create this text, trapping your own imaginations about God, you can sell it to other people. Like, that's literally like how every cult, every religion uses language to sell an idea of God. Because you have to use language to sell an idea of God. People should honestly be smart enough to know that God doesn't communicate through one language. Everyone should be smart enough to know that the concept of God predates all languages. So the moment you start learning about God through one language, you are learning about a cult. You are learning about a cult's idea of what is possible. Because God is anything being possible. You're possible, that's why you're alive. The moment you make yourself possible, now you can have 1,000 cults with all their own ideas of what's possible tell you how you got here. And it's all going to be them projecting their own problems onto you. That's how communication works. So, and this is why I'm talking about this occult Illuminati thing like this, because I want it to be as clean and basic as possible. With symmetry, I like to keep things simple, because once we get complex, it makes sense. If it makes sense when it's simple, it'll make sense when we get complex. We're not trying to be complex, yet once we cut the complexities down, there's nothing simple to even stand on. Okay, so we're thinking about a tree, right? The simplicity is us having a very strong trunk of truth. And then from there, we can branch out and be like, oh, la, 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 la. And then we can start, kind of lying, right? Because we can start saying things that aren't so true. We can start exaggerating. And that's everybody all day, every day. That's what it means to be flowery. But when you're just like right there in the trunk, like you're straight up about the facts, that trunk of information essentially functions as your soul. Your soul, as its essence, as a spirit, your soul functions as the trunk that connects all the bodies you've ever used to branch out. Look at a tree. You're going to see that every branch on the tree is connected by a trunk, okay? So this is what the soul is. The soul is your trunk of information. And that trunk of information connects you to all the other spirits who have also created chunks of information. So that's why all of our souls can talk about what the soul means. But we also are smart enough to know that we don't all have the same relationship with the soul, because we're all different souls. But the point of us being different souls, experiencing the body, is now we can use this structure to relate our emotions to one another. And now we can talk about our feelings. But the fact is, again, because we all have an individual relationship with this language, we don't even mean the same thing when we're talking. And that's the problem with English specifically. Atlantis is not like this because all the messengers of Mercury make sure people actually communicate in a grounded and consistent way. Obviously, we are very much in a world where the Masons stole everything from the messengers of Mercury so that they can muddy our conversations and muddy our communications with racist religious doctrine. So that's the whole issue with this one God, the one true God idea. One true anything is created by a cult. Every single cult in existence believes that their idea of God is the one true God. That's really what makes a cult a cult. Like when a cult really becomes a toxic cult, when their idea of the one true God outweighs everyone else's idea of who God is. So this is where cults become dangerous, right? So we can see that in the objective truth, the true history, the actual history of the Americas, the European banking system paid police to put on the KKK costumes and do horrible things to steal land. The whole idea of the police coming over into America is so Europe could steal land by using KKK energy to kill kids kindly. That's a cult. So the KKK is a cult, and the police are also a cult, and it's cults within cults because they're all getting paid, they're financed by a bigger cult called the banking system. So all of us who are aware of the banking system, we're outside the cult. If we're not born into the family that is controlling the money, controlling the banks, we're not in that cult. So we're the culture. Right? So that's the difference. The cult creates the culture. All of us are in a culture of human history. Just overall in human history, this is a culture. And we're like in the internet culture, or we're in the digital age. And we're in the information age, especially because now this is the first time in the last 2023 years that, and really, this is the first time in the last 2,000 years, right? When the internet really take off, I would say 2000, just to make it easy. This is the first time in the last 2,000 years, humans across the world could actually freely communicate since the times of Atlantis, since the old world. So this is supposed to be the time where we're forced to all get smarter, because when we can openly communicate, we're all way more intelligent than when we're trapped in school and trapped in a system that is practicing a cult on us. Like literally, if you went to school, then you're the culture. So all of us, anyone who went to school is part of that culture, school culture. And the Masons who made up the school system are the cult that can educate us through their own ideas of who God is. So this is why it's important to even be aware of what a cult is and what it means to for people to be in a cult. I just really broke it all down. That's what it means for people to be in a cult. When people are in a cult, they're simply coming together to create a culture. So before you can create any kind of culture, you literally have to create a culture for yourself. And that's the point of a cult. So your cult is the culture for yourself. So when you come together with your family, right, your friends, you play video games with your friends, you make a regular thing out of that, that might become your culture, right? So you and your friends, you start to have a culture where you're playing video games with each other. It's funny, they call bacteria cultures, right? Like in biology, when they put bacteria in a petri dish and all these organisms are communicating to build bodies, that's a culture. So that's science talking about that energy that I'm sharing, that I'm clarifying right now as Hermes. That's the culture. A culture is literally spirits coming together to build bodies with their minds. And that itself to other cultures would be called a cult. So if you're in a culture separate from another culture, and then they come to you and are like, hey, we have the one true idea of God and we all need you to worship it, and you already built your civilization on a totally different idea of God, that's a cult. You already know that they're in a cult and you have your own culture. And you know you have your own culture because you had to create your own cult. So now it's like, okay, well, we have our own idea of God. So your idea of God is not our idea of God. We don't even know who you are. Who are you? And then that's where the other cult would have to be like, you are our slaves. Our God said that you exist to serve us. And then that's how white people stole everything from black people, and then they lied to us about our history. So once you know this, you'll be able to see why everything is deeper than it appears. Every single thing in reality is deeper than it appears. All these highways that are laid out by cults who are weaponizing Hermeticism, Zoroastrianism, and overall Mercurianism against humanity. They're weaponizing Metatron's matrix and Metatron's math against humanity. So all these highways, all these buildings are literally built by cults of Masons who are weaponizing astrology to make us ignorant about how we're all in alignment with one another. Because they're weaponizing the alignments of astrology so that they can make money off of mutilating our anatomy. That's been my last 25 years of life. This is why I don't know nearly as much about astrology as I should, because I've been trapped inside all day, every day, serving a cult inside of a culture. So me as a culture of having to go to school and being forced to serve the banking system under fear of being horribly having bad things done to me in the prison system or whatever basement they want to trap me in, I was put in a state of fear where I'm forced to go to school every day. There is not one day of school where I wanted to go. I knew I was being forced by, the system, money. Whoever made up money is forcing me to serve their system, and they made it a culture. So whatever cult of people are using money to force me to serve them, they turn that culture into, you need to go to school or else we can do whatever we want to you. And everyone will agree that we're justified because everyone else is going to school. So this is like human peer pressure. This is literally the social peer pressure of how racist religions erase the history of indigenous peoples overall, of Native Americans overall. And then they use our energy, they use the past to do what they want into the future, and then they deny that the past is real. So the cults of Masons that created the banking system, the monetary system, the school system, it's all very intentional and way more deep than we are currently aware of. And we can't even fully be aware of it because they're the ones who have the deep souls who see how they want everything to connect. So when they're the ones who are using money to make sure that we're communicating the way they want us to communicate, we can't see how they truly want us to connect beyond the way that we want to connect. And then that's where I've gone through this whole school system so I can see how they want us to connect based on how I naturally connect with others. And I can see how I don't want to connect with others. I don't like being forced to sit all day, every day. I don't like eating garbage foods or supporting a system that's constantly pumping toxins into the air, land, and water. Supporting a system that's constantly poisoning my water when I've been water fasting for years to get to where I am now is disgustingly evil, insane, backwards. Doesn't make sense. So I can see then that the cults who are poisoning the environment want us to be ill. So that's how the banks make money giving us bills. The banks, the onks, take the B off the onk. They want to be the onk that they stole from me, from Metatron, from Tahuti Trismegistus. They want to be the keys to life by giving all of us ills, the B Illuminati. So the Illuminati are the people who are willing to do the sickest things, the most disgusting, illest things, so that they can pay their bills. And that's the cult. And then so that's just one of the cults too. There's hella cults that are all just that same energy. It's the same exact energy. Just bonk bill. They're all willing to do the illest, sickest things so that they can pay their bills and experience more of what the bonk is offering them. So the banks are like, hey, the more you work for us, the more freedom we'll give you. That's literally money. That's literally the banks using money to create celebrity culture and to make contracts that trap how artists spend their time and how artists intellectualize their mental property. So this is literally this is the whole point of understanding that every religion is created by cults who want to manipulate your idea of God. Okay, so when you can separate from all religions and learn about all religions, you're going to learn about your personal relationship with your space, and you're going to see why you even care about the concept of God anyway. And at that point, your concept of God is going to be so individual to your space. You're basically your own culture at that point. That's Mercury. When you see chaseyourgenes.com, I'm my own culture. I'm not a cult, but I have to practice occult things in order to create my own culture. And in general, me practicing occult energy is just me expressing myself. Because the moment I express myself, I create the circumstance where people can connect with my expression. And when I connect with my own expression, now I have the messengers of Mercury, right? Now we have the Atlantean Spider-Man, Quetzalcoatl, holding all of his past lives together in one symmetry, completely separate from all spirit's idea of what's balanced or fair or just. Because that's what symmetry is. Balance, fairness, justice, Mercury. So, on that note, I'm about to finish the rest of this. And maybe I'll do another one because I'm trying to catch up. I got to catch up. There's a lot of questions. I got to catch up. And I'm trying to work on not even saying sorry anymore. As Spider-Man, I'm not even supposed to say sorry, sorry, I didn't get to your questions, guys. I'm going to catch up. We're getting it out. I like to wait because when I get questions, I like to wait and see how many times I'm going to get a question. And if I start to see a pattern, if I'm getting the similar questions from multiple people, then those are the questions that hold the most weight, right? Just universally, logically, those are the questions that hold the most weight. The most people are relating with those questions versus just when people ask questions, it's that's fine. But if no one else is asking that question, then no one really cares about it. And I'm not really going to address that. Now, if I care about it, I will address it because this is Cosmic Conversations and it's only possible because of me. But I do have to practice discernment. That's an occult skill. See, so just me practicing discernment is occult. And by practicing discernment, I create the ability to experience a culture that I feel connected to. You see that? So literally on a spiritual level, practicing discernment led me to being born into the beautiful mom that I have today. So literally me practicing discernment allowed me to be born into the right family culture. Because we know all of us have our own cultures on a microcosm, right? This is why every religion, everyone who practices one religion does it differently. That's why there's so many motherfucking denominations on one religion. And then Abraham's covenant, Judaism and Christianity, they're both the same because they both worship Abraham's covenant. But one is different than the other because Judaism is the cult that practices magic, and Christianity is the culture that upholds magic. Literally, like that's it. Christianity is the culture that upholds the magic that Judaism practices. So that's the holidays. That's circumcising children at birth. That's breaking treaties with indigenous peoples and then saying that you never made the treaties and that it's not real. So practicing discernment itself is the action that makes facts. So it's not a coincidence that facts has the word acts in it. When you act, you just created a fact. The moment you take action on your faction, another word for cult. A better word for cult, right? A little less indoctrinated, a little less scary. Faction and cult, same word. They're both groups of people working towards one goal. They're practicing Hermeticism so that they can all work towards one goal. That's a cult. And the moment these people are working together towards one goal, what naturally happens, that fire, the cult, turns into water, the culture. All the individuals who aren't working towards that same goal, they're going to connect with supporting the goal. So now they're going to support working towards it, but they don't understand what's happening. So that's literally the idea of a sheep. So literally, the Jews, cult, Christians, culture. This is objectively America. So Jews are the cult of America, and then Christians are the culture of America. And that's why historically we can see that Christianity was created by Jews. And that's the point of them both worshiping Abraham's covenant. They're not separate. It's the same exact beast. The same exact beast that then wants everyone to be scared of the mark of the beast. So it is the same exact beast that's teaching us to be scared of the beast that is bringing us the mark that it's using to make money off of manipulating our emotions. So cultures are always created by all of our spirits practicing a cult. And spiritually, your occult practice is everything that relates to your personal relationship with God. And this is where the moment you realize you have a personal relationship with God, you know that God is bigger than any language, any one language, just like any language. God is bigger than any language. So the moment one group of people are using one language to teach you that you can only learn about God through this language, you know for a fact that a cult is practicing magic on you. Okay? For a fact, you know that a cult, OCCULT, a cult is practicing magic so that they can bring you their culture. And the moment you subscribe to that cult's idea of God, you're going to build their culture. This is literally why any word that I'm saying has any energetic backing. Because a cult intentionally aligned these symbols together so that they could give weight to ideas, to drawings, and we can use our vibration to give weight to these. Each word I'm saying literally doesn't matter without my vibration. So I have to have a voice. That's the point of Masons worshiping Metatron as a voice of God. They know that they stole the whole Bible from Metatron. That's why the Bible starts with, in the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word was with God. But I can be here, goggity, boobity, bobbity, pieces, bobbity, shoot, making up whole new words based on my intentions. So that's my voice, creating words. So that's Metatron being the voice of God, because Metatron is a spirit that creates the words that allows other spirits to even communicate about what God means to them, and so spirits can see how God works through the architecture of every universe in existence. So this is literally why Atlantis calls me God's architect, and we can literally go look at the John Adams building and see how they've taken all these aspects of Metatron and weaponized them to sell their white supremacist lie. But the truth is, they're saying the entire history of writing is Mercury, M-E, Metatron, Mercury, me. I'm forced to say this. Like, this is occult ritual practices that I'm going through. Atlantis and Mercury are forcing me to go through this, because this is my Spider-Man essence of me having to take responsibility for my power. So because I have the power to see these things and say these things, it's my responsibility to speak up, no matter how scared I am of the cults that have been chasing me. So I'm infinitely glad that Atlantis is my cult. I didn't know that Mercury is my cult. I didn't know Atlantis is my cult. I had no idea that I was living this life on a teamwork family mission. I always knew that I wanted to be a historian and a health expert. I just didn't know it went so deep as to me having to say that your spine is your caduceus. And me having to create art and detail where the caduceus came from, so now humans can know where their spines came from. I didn't imagine that my life would lead up to this, but now I can't run from it, because my life has been lit. Like, I've been creating Spider-Man costumes and going through weird cult shit. So when God is talking to me like, yeah, you got to speak out about the cults that are creating the culture that you're in right now. Now it's like, damn, well, so that makes sense that I went through that shit, huh, God? That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. God makes sense. And I think everyone can agree God makes sense. All right, so it makes a lot of sense. Thank you, God. And then this is where God is literally not just my spirit, because I'm a God, but all the spirits that have made this body's life possible. That's God, all of our space, which is so many gods. That's the pantheon. That's the pantheon of Mercury. So that's why when you look at any of Mercury's past lives, he exists in a pantheon of gods, because he's literally the voice of God. So if a simulation is calling him away to be the architect for God, then as a voice of God, he's going to create words that allow people to communicate about how they are also an infinitely individual God. It's just natural, and it's just right. Because this is how we take responsibility for our power. Okay, like the moment you recognize that you are an infinitely individual God, you can take full responsibility for your power. You have all the power to imagine an entirely new circumstance for yourself, separate from everybody else. But it takes being happy alone to do that. It literally takes being happy alone to actually be able to pull that off. If you're not happy alone, then you'll never be able to use your idea of God to create an entirely new circumstance where you can experience more of your imagination than you ever thought possible. So the cults that use the bonking system and use money to manipulate everybody, all of us, every single day, these people want to be the Ankh because they feel like they get to be the keys to life. They get to be Tahuti Trismegistus because they get to be Metatron, because they get to be the voice of God, because anything they say goes. That's their idea of Metatron. Their idea of Metatron is, oh, so we can just say anything and destroy the world. We don't have to build a world. We can destroy the world with our voice. And that's the bonk. That's literally the bank, right? Everyone, we've been talking about it every day. The banks are actively working to use money to destroy the world because that's their idea of voicing what they want to do, or just being able to create a new world from their vibration. Because we have to understand, when we speak, that's our vibration. The voice is your vibration. So the moment you speak anything into existence, that air and earth in front of you came out of your fire and water. This is hermeticism that they know. So they're practicing this every day on the news, right? They practice this on us in school and scientific, therapists, medical, just all the educational communities. This is how curriculums are created by Masons who are using hermeticism to weaponize our elements against us. So now none of us know about fire, water, air, and earth, but the individuals who stole this wisdom from Mercury know about it. And that's why they name Woden's Day Mercury Day, because all their money comes from manipulating our elements with money in general. Like, just their money comes from manipulating our elements with math, with magic, the M energy, with Metatron's M's. Wild. It's wild. But this is, again, why God is telling me that I have to be here, saying that Spider-Man is literally stolen from Metatron. And that's why when we look at Spider-Man in the Marvel Universe, we see that's how they treat Metatron. That's how they treat me. This is how white people literally treat me. This is how they treat my past lives. This is how Masons want me to be in their eyes. And then thus, this is how they want all of us to be. Because all of us are supposed to be here using our Mercury to work for ourselves. But when you look at Spider-Man, notice how he's never working for himself. They flipped my wisdom, they flipped my truth to sell a lie. They flipped my truth of great power comes great responsibility. If you have the power to express your idea of God, it's your responsibility to make that real. They flipped it and turned it into, with great power comes great responsibility. If you have the power to uphold the government's idea of God, then you need to sacrifice your life, your happiness, your safety, your relationships, everything that really life is about overall, so that you can support the government's idea of God. And now when we look at Spider-Man, he's constantly fighting the government while supporting them. So he supports them because he wants to live in their system, wants to live in their matrix. He wants to hold it together with his mind and his mathematics. But then when the government goes too far in killing the population, too much population control, too much fucking up New York and messing up the environment and hurting people, now he's going to go Quetzalcoatl mode, create a costume in his room, and then step out with his Mesoamerican eyes as a white ewe. Like, literally, when we look at his history, he's stolen from Quetzalcoatl, and now Peter Parker is Jewish, but his costume is Mesoamerican. Literally, Spider-Man's costume straight up looks like a Mexican luchador outfit. It's stolen from Mesoamerica. It's like on the architecture. So when we see that, we can see that that's how they want us to be. Okay? They're training us, all of us, to be like Spider-Man. All of us as students of school, everyone who's gone to school, everyone's been trained to behave like Spider-Man and feel like we need to support the school system. But the school system does not support us. This school system, for a fact, does not support us in any way, shape, or form. I know they stole my knowledge. They stole my truth. They stole Metatron's magical wisdom so that they could sell me white supremacist Masonic lies. And this is how they've justified genocide and slavery and used treaties to steal land from individuals that upheld the treaties, but the people who made the treaties didn't. All the Native Americans uphold treaties that the people who invented the treaties never even planned on upholding. And that's their occult practice. So take that into politics today. When we see white people complaining about how politicians lie all the time, where do you think, how do you think this land was stolen from Native Americans? Politicians lying. All of it. Politics. Lying so they can steal more out of jealousy. It's literally the religion that they worship. Yahweh says he's a jealous God. It's baffling. So God has put me in this position where I'm super poor, dealing with all this shit in my life, because it's important that we understand why it's happening. And if I was actually detached and I didn't take myself through these weird fucked up things, I wouldn't have the emotional intelligence to put the words together that I'm putting together right now. I would not have the memories to make these words mean something. So now, each time I create a video, I'm using my memories to make words mean something, right? I can put a bunch of words out. I can say a bunch of words all the time. Costume, eyes, heart, exercise, power, magic, body, God, universe, metaverse, like just a bunch of words. But if I'm not using my memories to connect those words in a certain mathematical alignment, these sentences aren't shit, right? I wouldn't have sentences. So everything's mathematical. That's very algorithmic. The way that I have to put words together to express what I remember, to express what I've gone through, to express my recollection of events and other spirits' recollection of events, because we all went through it. So, when you build a true personal relationship with God, you create your own cult. And that cult creates every culture. So I'm forced to know this because really Atlantis was created by the cult of Anubis and Metatron. And not just Atlantis, but the Atlantean metaverse, because Metatron created Mercury, Anubis created Atlantis. They bring them together. Now we have this universe, and this is one of many universes in the symmetry that is the Atlantean metaverse. So now we can see how everything in the metaverse, as above, so below, right? Nature functions the same way our minds work. So it's not a coincidence that you're in the metaverse. It's not a coincidence that Metatron is using his caduceus to support spirits who don't support him. He's the subconscious Atlantean Spider-Man. No one knows who Metatron is. Yet he's the one who's supporting everybody all day, every day. That's what Mercury does on a metaphysical level, as a structure, as a planet. So every universe in the Atlantean metaverse has its own Mercury, has its own universal Mercury. The whole point of the planet of Mercury is to hold every planet in the universe together. And in general, that's not a Masonic concept. It's more abstract. It's more abstract than the way that the art has been depicted. Every star in the universe has a planet inside of it. Every star in the universe itself is an atmosphere of light. So all the matter that condenses out of that light is inside of that light. So that truth is right there. That's the Marvel metaverse, guys. Everybody, that's Marvel. They stole this shit from me so that they could literally just sell lies in a bunch of different angles, because that's how they're making money. But the Marvel metaverse, like the whole Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars, this is Zoroastrianism. Star Wars, Star Trek, Zoroastrian shit. All of those ideas of traveling the universe and landing on other planets doesn't work without the awareness that I'm sharing right now. I've taken my mind to many fucking stars. Every star is a different atmosphere. Now, that's the difference. We have to know that stars and universes are not the same. And I think we can imagine that. We can see like, okay, wait, we have a star. Yeah, I want to be a star. Wait, but how do I be seen as a star? How do I get seen as a star? You enter the universe. So that's why the universe is created by stars. But now this plays out through the element of water. Because overall, we use the element of water to create a circumstance where we can all connect. Once we're all connected inside of one cosmic circle, one circle stance, that's the astrology, the sun and the moon, we can see we're in a circle stance and everything is circular. When we're in that circumstance with one another, now we can start communicating to build bodies that are relatable. So this is how the cells in our bodies are, functioning right now. If they weren't already connected by water, they would not be able to go to the air earth method of architecture. This is why water is so important, and it's so disgusting that they're poisoning the water and the air and the food and forcing us to get shot while making us work and slave away out of fear. This is literally, they're manufacturing sickness in so many different angles. They're literally taking an infinite Metatron approach to murdering us slowly. It's so scary. They stole everything from Metatron so that they could be the Masons. So this is why they're obsessed with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's their biggest property. To them, Spider-Man is Metatron. So, yeah. I don't have enough money to afford my phone bill. I don't have enough money to afford this apartment. I don't have enough money to afford my student debt or anything. Yet God is forcing me to go through what Spider-Man goes through in the comics, but differently. But in a chase way. But yeah, I'm making my own costumes in my room. Many costumes. I've made many Spider-Man costumes out of scraps alone in my room with just a few measly hundreds of dollars. Really, a lot of the costumes made with less than $100 in my motherfucking room alone. No one taught me how in this life. So it's like I'm forced to see that my artistic skills are carried over from the past. That's what Atlantis and Anubis are showing me. I don't want to call them liars. It seems like they're telling me the truth, considering I've been living this shit. So when I have cults of insane ass women chasing me and I've been living this shit for years, and it's way too heavy and negative and hard to be able to talk to people about in my real life. But there was like a whole section of my life where people were super trying to protect me, but I had to practice Hermeticism. I had to learn what Hermeticism is for myself, because I had to separate and realize why I'm alive and why other people are alive. And I had to do that alone because I didn't want me to be other people's purpose. That's what was happening. People were excited to protect me. People were excited to protect me from cults. They're like, oh yeah, let's protect Chase from cults. But then it became their purpose. And it's like, no, you are here to focus on yourself. You're supposed to be here focusing on yourself. You're not supposed to be here focusing on me so hard that you feel like creating a cult with other people about me will make you happy. Like that makes me so sad. It's made me so sad dealing with this. I hate this. And then to be forced to see how it's connected to the Illuminati harvesting the Hermes energy and the Quetzalcoatl energy and the Zarathustra energy and the Ningishzida energy and the Nabu energy and the Thoth energy, Tahuti energy, the Woden energy, the Agma energy, the Cadmus energy, the Kanji energy, the Buddha energy. Literally, they have Siddhartha taking credit for everything that Mercury as Buddha created through Buddhism. So because Siddhartha went and learned Buddhism, now he gets to be called Buddha because he calls himself Buddha. Literally, the story of Siddhartha is him objectively growing up completely rich with no problems, and then once he hit over the age of 30, and once he already got married and had kids, he stepped outside of his fucking hermetic seal for the first time. Because that's the point of bringing heaven to earth, right? All wealthy people, the point of having money and not having to answer to people, right? When you don't have to answer to people outside of yourself, when you don't have to respond to spirits outside of yourself, that's a hermetic seal. That's going to contain you and your idea of God alone in space. That's how we create every universe in existence, for real. Because that itself is how stars come out of a universe itself. So once we create the universe, then we play the creation of the universe on a micro scale inside of that universe. Then it's just, boom, we're building bodies. And then it's basically from the inside out, because then that's our concept of expanding the universe, and it's very circular. It's very circular. So when these Illuminati people are doing all their rituals in the name of trying to chase Hermes Trismegistus, of trying to chase Quetzalcoatl and Tahuti and Odin and Metatron, because that's what cannibalistic Christian cults do, I'm forced to talk about it. I'm forced to talk about it, and I'm scared. I'm really scared of talking about it, but like, I'm not supposed to, because I have to focus on my connection with God. And my connection with God is my connection with my dog. And I know my dog is infinitely powerful. And if my dog is my dog, then my dog has to like keep reminding me just how powerful I am. But this Spider-Man energy for me is me doubting myself a lot. So much self-doubt and so much cutting myself out of my own power and holding my power back because of me being self-negative. And that's all overall Virgo energy. So again, this is Spider-Man is personally stolen from my energy. They just twisted the truth into a lie. So Masons twist the truth of Mercury into the lie of Masonry. Or the U's twist the truth of Mercury into the lie of Masonry. But overall, well, really, we can say the U's, because Marvel is owned by U's. And the whole thing with Marvel is that U's are using Marvel to create the idea that all gods in existence are expressions of Yahweh. So literally, that's the Marvel universe, stealing everything from the old world so that Yahweh can say he created the old world, and this is a new world now. So now we have the one true God working through Marvel and the Holy Bible to take credit for everything that he's stolen from all of my family and all of the families of my families and all these infinite individuals that make up Mercury and Atlantis as universes. So this is where ancient aliens come from. All right, you see aliens, understand that those are just really Atlanteans, letting you know that we're all from outer space. We're also indigenous. That's the paradox. That's the paradox. So when you see Anubis named Paradox, that's the paradox. And I didn't even know that until I just made that connection. That's why, low-key, I'm doing this video for myself. It literally doesn't matter who's watching this. If you're watching this, good for you. You're tapping into the best wisdom in the Atlantean metaverse. Congrats, straight up. It's lit. That's really wild. I really did not realize at all that me naming Anubis Paradox was referring to how indigenous individuals are from outer space. So we are the ancient aliens, the AA. Always Ascending Academy, baby. Anubis, Alpha Anubis with that double A. Ancient aliens. Atlantis, ancient aliens. Still AAA, always saying Academy. I'll figure it out because this is literally I get to play in my mind by creating these videos for the universe, by building this content, building this website where I'm sharing with everybody the power of fasting, right? Because water fasting got me here. Water fasting has given me this mental clarity and ability to raise my vibration. Like, that's especially what it is. The whole concept of walking on water is stolen from Zarathustra, actually bringing water fasting into the world like this. So that's literally why now everyone worships the idea, oh, Jesus fasted 40 days so he could get killed by the government because that's the true son of God. They stole that from Zarathustra, being the messenger of Mercury coming through into the universe, being like, all right, we're about to bring astrology into anatomy. Boom. And then when we bring astrology into anatomy, now he can create all this hermetic health content about why water fasting is healthy. Because all of our bodies are made out of water. No shit. Like, and then science wants to act like I'm lying when our bodies are 70% water and 30% earth. The earth came out of water. We know that, like, so it's, this is why elements are important. This is why it's very important to understand life from a hermetic perspective. And all these cults that are making all this money while I have none and I'm stressing out wanting to kill myself every day and shit, they're all practicing hermeticism so that they can weaponize elements against us. So now none of us know about elements. None of us know about nature. All we know is science and religion. Not elements, not nature. Science and religion. Science is the dissection and destruction of nature in this reality. Religion seems to also be the dissection and destruction of nature in this reality. So it's really about this banking system. Again. So, but of course, let's make that more real. Science, yes, dissecting nature. We see that scientists are obsessed with dissecting things because that's how they feel like they can see how things are really connected. There's a balance in that. And then religion is all about being able to communicate why science is even possible. So religion comes before science. All forms of science are religious. This is why every cult then has their own form of science, and that's basically where we get the word magic from, and why you can have your own form of magic. Your own form of magic is literally your occult relationship with God. That's you alone in your own space, realizing that the way you relate with all the spaces outside of yourself is not the same way anyone else ever could even imagine. Okay? Don't let racist religions colonize your relationship with God. So, if you would like to learn how to water fast so you can connect with God directly, then get tough and chaseyourgenes.com and raise your vibration so you can soar high in the sky. Yeah.